wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
It's better not awaken anything in me.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
I'm responsible for my own happiness. I can't even be responsible for my own breakfast.
We have Santa Claus. Assemble.
All right, welcome to a special edition of Nerded Here Weekly. I guess it's basically the Nerd Out. I'm your host, Deepak Chitna, senior film critic over here at Nerded Here First, and I am joined by Riley Trahan.
The least exciting person to join us on this show because we talked so much this week. We've been talking it up. KB's here with us. Get straight to it.
Hey, so glad to be here with you all to chat about this film that I am spoiling with my background.
Perfect. Very good.
And speaking of background, Riley, that's a good chance for us to get into some of the plugs before we get into the movie. Anything to let people know about, potentially where they could see this background KB speaks of?
Yeah, absolutely. So we should definitely get into that. We are talking about Bugonia today. So if you haven't seen the movie already, people should make sure that they get a chance to see it before you listen to us talk about it, because we are going to get very heavy on the spoilers. And this is a movie that is sort of principally about a central question here, right? So you don't want to go into this one unspoiled. But also, if you like the stuff we do, we want to let you know we have other things coming up soon that you might be interested in. If you like listening to Deepak and I talk about movies, we're going to be talking about Predator Badlands later this week. That's an exciting one that we still have coming out. And Jackson and I had the opportunity to see Frankenstein at the AFI in Silver Spring, which was a beautiful projection. And we got the chance to sit through that and really enjoyed the film. So you can hear us talk all about that now. So we have some good preview movie stuff coming up. And then we're always doing the news. Every week we're talking entertainment, movie news over on Nerd It Here Weekly. You can get all that and more at our website, nihf.com, and on our YouTube, youtube.com/@ Nerd It Here First. I was told that I had to remember to mention the @ I leave the @ out. So there you go. Housekeeping over. Let's get into your ghost weirdness.
Yeah, let's talk about it. We'll go non-spoilers first for a little bit for the people who still haven't had a chance to see the movie, since it did just sort of come out. And we'll get through some of, production history, high-level thoughts on our overall reaction to the movie, and then, of course, what we think it may do in the upcoming or maybe already started award season. And then hard break. On the other side, we'll really dig into the spoilers and sort of what the it of it all is.
Yeah, Bruno will include some sort of alarm or signal of some sort. I'm sure there's a timestamp and a note, maybe all the normal podcast things.
Some sort of signal that some people pick up on and maybe some people don't.
I don't know. I don't listen to the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So, so I guess so let's just get into it. High level, not really getting into any specifics because I'm sure we'll dig into that, but we'll just go around the horn. What did we all think of it? KB, what did you think of Bugonia?
Well, it definitely took me on a journey. I will say that. I will say it does start off a bit slow for me. Like, I was sitting in the theater and I was like, I need a little bit more. Like, I need this to press ahead. But once they, put their foot on the gas, they go all the way. I will say for me specifically, Jesse Plemons' performance is so chaotic that it is fantastic to me. Like, I think that for me, he really sells this film. Obviously, his interaction with Emma Stone and them going kind of head to head throughout this film is the majority of it. But I do think that there are so many layers to Jesse's performance, just in terms of emotional manipulation, kind of grief, loss of emotional control, diving into, how he got here. There's a lot of empathy that you can somehow, in a few scenes, really pick up for him as well. I just think that this is a really beautiful, fleshed out, ranged character. I'm trying not to have any spoilers in this piece. That just really, I think that Jesse really knocks it out of the park. And I think that the film wouldn't have worked with maybe any other actor kind of going toe to toe with Emma but him in this particular film.
I would 100% agree. My main takeaway is I think he should be, I don't know if he is, but I think he should be the front runner for Best Actor. I'm having a difficult time, and I have a lot of catching up to do, kind of thinking of what I would put in that class with him. And I know everyone's talking about DiCaprio in One Battle After Another, and Michael B. Jordan is incredible in Sinners.
Timmy.
Tim Chalamet.
Yeah, no,
of course, is
I have
coming up.
not seen. Yeah, I haven't seen Marty Supreme yet, so I can't speak to Timothy's performance. I will say Leo is not the front runner for me.
Yeah, I don't.
Good, but
My hot take was that he was miscast in that movie, but
Deepak's out on the concept of Leonardo
Really?
DiCaprio these days. He is fully done.
no, I like him. I just maybe not in that movie. But
I
Riley,
will say that I enjoyed the film, but I did not think that he and Tiana Taylor had chemistry. I did not believe it.
That's a big part of it.
Well, no, we can do this sidebar for a second. I basically thought that the redeeming quality of the casting decision was that for the section of the film that really focuses on Tiana Taylor's character before her performance exits the film, though she certainly kind of is over the whole
Hovers
thing.
over it.
Yeah, like the appeal of Leo to me was that she just does not stop wanting to have sex with him. Like every scene was sort of a different version of Tiana Taylor wanting to make out with Leo, which kind of led to a problem that I had with the movie in a different way, but it was very believable to me that you would never want to stop kissing Leonardo DiCaprio if you had the opportunity to never stop kissing Leonardo DiCaprio. I was very much on with that part of it.
It's funny, in this sidebar, I'm thinking to myself, I actually like all of their performances individually. I just didn't believe them as a couple, which I think is okay because I believed him as a father. It's like I believed him to be like
him with Chase
made
Infinity.
to be a dad,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But to be her partner,
with,
not necessarily.
Yes, and even the stuff with like him and Benicio, I thought was chemistry-wise. Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Benicio is actually my favorite character, probably next to Regina Hall's character, next to Chase Infinity's character. I'm like, they give great performances. I think Tiana even gives a great performance. If I were, walking down the street and I saw them together as a couple, I would be like, no, what's going on here?
That's it. How interesting. Yeah, sure. Totally. Well, speaking of people who are odd next to each other, to get to your question, Deepak, I thought that the Plemons and Stone together were really, really good, right? I am sort of like, the more Yorgos uses the two of them, I feel like the more I'm just going to be in for I would just like to watch them in movie. I don't really care what movie is. I just want to watch the two of these people sort of interact. They're both very compelling. We will kind of get more into the details of it, but there were a couple of flashpoints specifically when Emma Stone's performance sort of did a little trick. And I was so kind of compelled by those. I mean, I think she is a tremendous talent. Plemons, I think the first time I really took note of Plemons was Power of the Dog. I mean, I know he's been out there kind of in the ether before then. I know that a lot of people even point to Game Night, which I remember seeing in theaters. So surely I noticed him being
Friday
a
Night
weird
Lights.
neighbor. I just
Friday Night Lights.
I did not see Friday Night Lights. I will absolutely.
Breaking
Bad.
I know. This is totally.
It is in my top 5 series of all time. I mean.
And I love basically every other book in that Seppenwald, The Revolution Won't Be Televised. I've watched basically all of them. I've just never, so it is totally on me. But the more I see him, the more I am oh, he's very good. I do get it. I'm not out here denying it.
Civil War.
He
probably deserved an Oscar nomination for 5 minutes of screen time.
That really got us.
What kind of American are you?
What kind of American? Yeah, that one. Oh, still sends tingles up my spine. But to that point, I do think that is what he's really good at in this movie. Is he's sort of playing problematic, lives in his basement, concerning white guy, but in a way that is interesting, that there, you could sort of see it being a shallower character in the hands of maybe a lesser actor or a lesser director or just a whole film that had less on its mind. But the way he really balances sort of guy I am very primed to not pay a lot of attention to and not give a lot of credibility and basically ignore, but he weaponizes that in such a particular way. So I loved it. I thought it was a ton of fun. I thought it was a really good movie. I liked that I saw it as a movie. I don't know that it was haha, great time. But yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be talking about it for months now, so let's get into it.
Sure. Going all the way back, it's based on a movie called Save the Green Planet, a Korean movie that was created when the writer saw Misery and thought that it would be more interesting to tell that story from the perspective of Annie Wilkes is her name, the Kathy Bates character. He also combined that with an idea he had after speaking with a gentleman who believed that Leonardo DiCaprio, speaking of him again, was an alien.
That's right.
Who was apparently trying to copulate his way to taking over the entire human race.
Yep.
These two ideas were put together into what ended up becoming Save the Green Planet, which became a modest success, I believe, in South Korea. Remake rights were then purchased. At one point, Ari Aster was on board as a producer, and as soon as I heard that, I just started wondering what this movie would have been like if he had directed it. I have not yet seen Eddington, but I'm told Eddington is very similar as far as kind of the thematic sensibilities or sort of what it's talking about. I don't know, KB, have you seen Eddington? Do you know of any similarities there?
I haven't seen it, not yet. So it's still on my list. That is at this point what feels like a million titles.
Yeah.
Letterboxd
Another Emma
doesn't help
Stone
me.
appearance too.
Letterboxd doesn't make it any easier, right? Because then you'll see like that somebody has ranked Eddington as like their third top movie of the year, and it's someone you really respect, right? And you got to be like, great, now I got to go watch this one too. The list just keeps getting longer.
Add it to the pile of 1,092 titles in your watch list.
The Aster of it all is interesting, Deepak. I know that you and I like to disagree about his stuff, and I don't really know how I got to be in the position of being the Ari Aster defender, but it is interesting to see these sorts of topics of kind of when Hereditary came out, everybody was so excited to use the phrase elevated horror, right? And I sort of I don't know how much credence that as like an idea holds, but this year especially, I feel like Eddington was one of these. I feel like Weapons was one of these. There was another one that I won't be able to think of off the top of my head, but horror movies that kind of have concepts that feel not just elevated, but incredibly relevant to like the current moment we're living in, that are really kind of like grabbing onto a topic, right, like pulled from the headlines almost, and setting it up in a way that is compelling and interesting as the hook for like a genre story. I feel like Eddington did that. I feel like Bugonia does that really well. And it's interesting to see then how that allows creatives to talk about these issues in like an interesting way, where at the same time, we're seeing like 60 Minutes can't run like critical stories of the president anymore, or they all go to jail, right? But Weapons can say such an interesting thing about the nature of like intergenerational like revolution and stuff through like a witch story. I think it's I don't know that Ari Aster would have made a better version of this than Yorgos Lanthimos would have, but I think it's interesting to see both those guys like interested in how do I say something about the current moment in genre movie.
Yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily say that I wouldn't consider this a horror film.
No.
Neither would I.
I would consider it like just a psychological suspense or a psychological thriller in some ways. But I do think that you're right. I do think that we're kind of living in a time where and I think I want to say it feels like it started with Get Out, but maybe that's a little, I'm sure there were other ones before, but I feel like maybe a resurgence started with Get Out, where they started to really address what horror could look like, through the lens of like racism, sexism, capitalism, everything that's going on, in our current day society, but just through a very specific, very different lens. And so even in some ways, I think Sinners does it too. Just kind of doing what you mentioned as elevated horror. Obviously, like Hereditary does it through the lens of religion. And so, there's just a lot of nuances that happen in Bugonia as well, that just really speak to kind of this current climate and like you briefly touched on, Riley, but of just this kind of traditional white man in his basement who is maybe leaning into misinformation and weaponizing that and what that looks like. And I don't know, Jesse makes you, there's really a moment in the film where I was watching and I was like, oh, wow, like he's completely unhinged, and by the time we get to the ending, I personally never could have anticipated what was going to happen. But I just remember thinking in the middle of the film, like, oh, he's completely unhinged, you know, and like, and just the way that Emma Stone's character is going kind of toe to toe with him so poignantly, and the way she uses her words to make the audiences believe, you know, certain things about him is really brilliant, actually, because, you know, by the time you cycle through the film, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the moments where this movie really clicked for me, I think, the first time. When I understood kind of the dance that Yorgos Clemens and Stone were all kind of doing together was, you know, I mean, it is not a spoiler to say that him, by the way, I'm putting my phone down so that I won't have
Oh, right, right, right. Yeah, yeah.
him,
I
when you
thought that's
mentioned
what you
Peel,
might have been
that's
referencing, but yeah.
yes. But anyway, it's not a spoiler to say this movie is chiefly about Jesse Plemons having Emma Stone chained up in a basement. And there is a moment where Jesse Plemons says something to the effect of, like, I don't even want to try and remember the language because it was sort of upsetting, but he makes it very clear that he could, you know, at any moment just sort of kill her, you know, and that is kind of the power dynamic that the two of them are experiencing. And I think that was the first time that I went, oh, he's a crazy person who has a lady tied up in his basement, right? Like, I've seen this in other, you know, sort of more direct constructions in films, right? Like, it's sort of just Silence of the Lambs in a way. And that was the first time that I feel like the power dynamic between the two of them, like, clicked into one position. And then sort of over the course of the movie, these conversations that they would have, it would change, where it would go from, you know, he's very in control to she's very in control to sort of they both feel like they're kind of vying for power. And I think that for me, as someone who loves movies that are so much just about two people in a room talking, it's like what my wife makes fun of me about all the time, is that I just want two people to be in a room talking, and that is a good movie for me. I thought that dynamic was really, really compelling. But Deepak, I mean, you liked the Plemons of it even more than I did. I want to make sure you got a chance to weigh in here.
No, I think you guys both covered it really well. He goes through the entire gamut of like a character arc in this, going from someone at the end of the rope to someone who's insane to someone that we find out who sort of has justifiable reasons, not necessarily for what he's doing, but what the root cause of that beef is. And so to create a fully fleshed out three-dimensional human being, and again, Riley, like what you were saying, that it didn't even occur to you that he was a crazy person until that line of dialogue. That's, again, the whole thing about the perspective of it, that we're coming at it from the kidnapper's perspective, not the kidnapped. Right. And so it takes us a while to realize, oh shit, maybe this isn't what we should be doing.
Right. Yeah, you are sort of maybe because you're presented with the narrative from his point of view. There is maybe just a little bit of lag time for not every audience member, of course, but at least for me, I am here on this show.
Riley was cheering along.
Audience members. Well, we should get to what
the
happened.
The feel-good movie of the holiday season.
No,
Riley.
We got to talk about what happened in your screening, though. But yeah, just there it clearly clicked. You know, I obviously knew he was a crazy person, but it clicked for me.
Right in the beginning, I think it's like very obvious.
Yes. Yeah. Right. But sorry. So KB Deepak and I were texting after he got out of the movie. Well, no, let's just Bruno, do the alarm thing.
Are we doing it now? All right.
Deepak and I were texting after he got out of his movie, and he had people who were like walking out of the theater going, "Oh my God, he was right. She would," and we were just like, "Oh, tell me you missed the point of the movie without telling me you missed the point of the movie." To be walking out of this being like Plemons was right. That's not it.
The words were, "He was right all along." I was like, "Oh goodness."
Well, I think that, you know what, maybe I'm sorry, does the ding mean that we can talk to
Yes, yeah, go nuts.
Yes, go ahead.
She's an alien. Yes, she's an
alien. I was like, sorry. Okay. So, I mean, I think that this film is not a film that you can watch one time. I do think that, like, you will miss a lot of things if you only watch it one time, and you would have to watch it at least twice to be able to understand. I will say, playing a little bit of devil's advocate, is them walking out of the theater saying that he was right all along, I think is more surface. Meaning, like, yes, he was wildly unhinged, but he wasn't incorrect in thinking that she was a higher being. So maybe that's what they were saying. You know, like, oh, he was a higher being. It doesn't mean that he was justified in 90% of his actions, right? Like, it doesn't mean that all of those, you know, chopped bodies in his home that he also kept, which I was like, this is wild. Like, you have all of these bodies just in your home is also a choice. I don't think that, any of that is justified as well, but I think that maybe they just walked out there like, oh, because I will say, I never suspected that she was at all.
Okay.
So by the time I got to the end, I truly was like, oh, I was like, well, okay, I guess, the whole time I just thought that she was a typical kind of billionaire CEO who is
Yeah.
completely out of touch and, utilizing, her money for her own, um, vices and who could care less about humanity, which I mean I guess is still true. It doesn't matter what lens you look at it from, she definitely still does not care about humanity. But I mean, I was thinking of it just from like a corporate perspective and like a capitalistic society perspective, like,
Absolutely.
oh, okay, this is what she's doing,
Yeah.
versus like, when she goes into that closet, I'm like, oh, I was like, well, that's not where I thought this was going. And I also thought that because of the way that he died, and the EMT's like, oh yeah, sometimes we see this with home bombs. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, and it's definitely not what happened to him in that closet.
No, and that's so interesting because I mean, one of the things that we had made a note of when we were kind of doing our prep work for it was sort of what are the signs that you notice that you go, oh,
Yeah.
Emma Stone could be an alien. And I think that the script, to your point, KB, I think that the script is so well written in that regard. I'm really excited to see it a second time because it sort of feels like it has Sixth Sense potential to me. There's
Mhm.
in my mind, there's one scene where she says something about like I became a person I never wanted to be, and like knowing she's an alien, that's a much more interesting line
It is.
than just thinking that maybe she just sold out or whatever. Um,
Hmm.
but when she gets electrocuted, Deepak, you had kind of called that out as your hackles were up at that point. Like maybe not
Yeah.
convinced, but you were like, oh, something is happening, something brewing here more than what meets the eye.
They showed that dial cranked up to like 300 or 400 volts, and I was in
It
the
was
back of my mind.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I don't know that a human can survive that, but they go through great lengths at the beginning of the movie with her workout routine and her regimen and the face mask thing and all that. So I'm thinking maybe she's just in really good shape. The second big thing is when she goes through the entire monologue where she's like, we came here with the dinosaurs and
Hmm.
we tried
Hmm.
at that point the first step of human evolution, this and that. And I'm thinking, even at that time, weird, but she's smart. She's trying to play the game.
Right.
She's
She's
trying to
just
gain the
doing
upper
his
hand
thing.
here. She didn't leave, and I'm assuming because she was limping, her knee had just been busted. I guess she couldn't leave, but then we see her walking or limping, all the way back to the office later. So that was weird. Anyway, but I thought they left enough
I will
breadcrumbs there
say,
that you could have put it together, but I don't think anyone is brave enough to do it.
and I will say you're right. In terms of the monologue, that was actually the first time where I was like,
Hmm.
oh. And then, I mean, because it came directly after the scene of her kind of reading his computer, going through his articles, seeing all of the bodies that he
Yeah.
had there, I was like, it could be an opportunity for her to just have kind of absorbed, some
Right.
information that he was reading to try to speak his language to get out of this. But
Hmm.
it was so detailed that I was like, well, I'm not sure. Because who knows? I think the funniest thing, honestly, the funniest line to me is when she's like, "Well, I guess grammar doesn't matter here and anymore."
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh shit, there's no way she's an alien. She just is like, you're not going to play me. I'm a woman who is brilliant and you're not going to play me in this moment." So I was like, when she said that line, I was like, she's definitely not an alien. She's just, a woman tired of this man telling
Well,
her what will be. That was my immediate response.
that's where I was with the whole time. I just kept being like, Emma, stop. We can get out of this. Stop mouthing off at the scary man. We don't need that. Like, I understand you're frustrated, but I'm worried we're not going
And
to make
then,
it out of here.
well, then there was a little shift, right? When they're having that dinner and she
Yes.
has him pinned on the
Yes.
floor and she
Hmm.
says,
She's on top of
I
him. I'm
I
a
have the
winner.
power. Yeah, I'm the winner and you will not survive because I'm the winner. I have the power. I have the control. I was
Hmm.
like, well, I don't know. My girl seems pretty strong. So like maybe she does have a little bit of like alien DNA there, but I mean it did take me a while. I mean, literally I was quite shocked when she jumped out of that ambulance. And I was like, oh, she is an alien. Like
Oh,
she
yeah, we're
jumped
doing
out.
it.
I was like, oh, like, wow,
I couldn't.
okay.
I couldn't believe it, and I did think it was pretty audacious. And I mean, I really like. I think Lobster was probably my favorite Yorgos movie before this. I think I would have to kind of sit with this, maybe see a Begonia again before I really have a sense of where it fits. I'm always such a sucker for a new movie. I mean, any new movie that comes out is suddenly my favorite movie ever, and then I have to give it a couple weeks. But I like the weird endings, and I like sort of the discomfort that he feels very comfortable in, right? And I wasn't sure with this one, and I wanted to get you guys' opinions on this. For me, the ending felt a little bit like he wanted to have his cake and eat it too, in a way, where, like, I think he wanted to show you sort of how insane this imagined world that this guy existed inside of was, like really witness the extent of his craziness. I think the height of this for me was when Emma Stone goes up to the spaceship and they say, well, why didn't you call? And she said, I didn't have my hair. Right? Like, just everything this guy has said has just suddenly becomes 100% fact. I think part of it is showing you the absurdity of it. But like I said, I do think there are maybe some members of the movie going public, like Deepak experienced, who are going to walk out and be like, oh, point of movie is Clemens was right. And that feels a little bit like walking out of Fight Club and saying, oh, wasn't Brad Pitt the coolest guy you've ever seen? Or walking out of Joker and really admiring that character for whatever reason those people did that. And we're not going to be able to dummy proof every movie in the world. But I did wonder, like, oh, is he being too smart, too cute, too funny for, like, mainstream American Hollywood audiences?
Well, my takeaway from whatever I heard at my screening was not necessarily that they were going to think that all the crackpots were right. It was that they were basically throwing out the entire movie because of the last few minutes.
Sure.
There was a palpable... You could feel the theater going, oh, I was okay. Again, my interpretation of it is more in line with what you were saying, which is Yorgos is literally telling people, hey, if you want to know what they believed, this is what they believed.
Yeah.
This is what they were basing their entire worldview around. But I do think that the vast majority of audiences will watch this and go, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that, there are a couple of different like underlying themes throughout, and it really speaks to the lengths that someone will go through, due to grief, like what that level of desperation looks like due to grief. And, just simply there's a point in time where her character says, oh, I realize now that we didn't give you enough money. Like, we should have given you enough money to like kind of make this go away. And he's like, that doesn't matter. Like, ultimately, you have destroyed my family. And I believe that you should die for it ultimately, because like, you destroyed my family. My mother will not come back from this. And you have just ruined my life. So I think that that underbelly of grief, I mean, and obviously it also started with him and the bees, right? Like him and the bees, and then like that morphing to his mother's illness and what that looked like. And her, involvement in the clinical trial that ended up being, kind of like her physical body's demise. I just think that like, it just speaks a lot to kind of that grief and emotional manipulation piece almost, that kind of goes a little bit hand in hand with that. And so I think audiences, to your point, may miss that, like if they get to the end and they say, oh, she was an alien. So, like it doesn't matter, because like he was right. She was an alien. I was like, I think it's more nuanced and more layered than that. But I do think because of this ending, and this may be a little controversial, but I should say that I am not someone who believes every film is an Oscar film. Some films are just films, and that's okay. Like, I don't think that they should always be in awards conversations. I think that there are some performances that can be in awards conversations, but that doesn't mean that the whole film needs to be, like sometimes you resonate with one character really, really well in a film, but that doesn't mean the entire film should be nominated for Best Picture. Like, and so I think that for me personally, I think that Jesse's performance is great, but I don't know that I would necessarily say I would put this film up for Best Picture. And
I think that's fair.
Yeah. I think that's a totally reasonable read on it. It's interesting how the award, like especially the Academy Awards over the last couple of years, have become so sort of predisposed to have like sort of hold this slot for foreign director with Hollywood friendly movie to be named later. And I feel like that's sort of like where Yorgos's pipeline began. I think if that's a thing we're going to keep doing, I'm totally fine with it. I don't know that it needs to be held for Yorgos every time Yorgos has a movie. I think, like there was a time when the best animated picture was sort of like the Disney award or the Pixar award. Yeah, like Yorgos is now enough of a guy that maybe he's a part of the system, right? That we can have that sort of slot for somebody new be for somebody new. I would be okay with that. And I'm with you. I think this was a good and interesting movie. But maybe like Furiosa, right? A movie that I also really loved last year from a great director who has certainly been celebrated by the awards in the past. Like you say, not every swing's a grand slam.
Right. And so I think that, like, I think their performances only work well with each other. I do think that they are the two perfect actors in this role, because I will say something controversial and say that a sidebar for One Battle After Another, I don't necessarily love Sean Penn as the person in there, and so I'm like, I could actually see that character being played by another actor. But I do find in Bugonia, I do think that these two particular actors are the only ones I can envision kind of doing this, and taking this on in this way. So I think for me that's a swing, right? Like, I think that that's great that even that occurred, that you picked the two perfect actors to really kind of embody these two characters and this weird dynamic and dichotomy and kind of in a lot of ways like political drama, because in a lot of ways it does have like a lot of kind of political
Absolutely.
elements behind it, and commentary behind it. I think he picked the perfect two actors to be able to do it. So I'm like, yeah, I don't necessarily think that, I'm not sure it'll be Best Picture. Maybe it is, because it has been an international darling for like a lot of people. A lot of people are really saying it, but I will say, I don't know. The one film that I've seen so far that has the most Oscar buzz that I find 1000% no one will disagree is Hamnet. So
Yeah, and that'll be interesting for us as a show because. Much to Deepak's chagrin, I was not a huge fan of Nomadland. So, but I am a real sucker for Shakespeare. So I'm hoping that this will be my redemption opportunity here, because I would love to be into Hamnet. That seems like everybody's going crazy for it.
I don't know a single person. It is actually exceptional. I don't know a single person who doesn't like it. Like,
KB, make sure you watch The Space, because Deepak just had a bouncing baby boy in the last year, so he's going to be weeping his eyeballs out when he's on Hamnet.
100%.
They played the trailer in front of Bugonia, and I texted Riley after. I'm like, I might be out.
I'm not going to see it.
I don't think I can watch it.
I mean, when I tell you that there was not a dry eye in my screening, and I saw it at TIFF, there wasn't a dry eye. There's no way any human being can leave that film with no emotions. I mean, like, honestly, maybe if you're a sociopath, I don't know, but like, ultimately there's no way that you can leave, because it is just the most beautiful, sad, joyous, funny, harrowing. I mean, it is exceptional. So it's really the only one that I've heard that has this much buzz that I can 1000% say, like, it's definitely going all the way. There's no.
Wow.
But that's what you want from when people talk about sort of Best Picture, like, locks in a given year. That's sort of the thing that you want to be talking about, right? Is something that so overwhelms you with its power and capability that you can't help but walk away and go, that was one of the best things I've ever seen in my life, right? And there have been a small handful of movies like that over the course of my entire life, but they are few and far between. And that's sort of what I was saying, KB, about like, oh, I'll get so excited for a new movie, right? Like, I'll walk out of Frankenstein or Begonia or Predator when we go see Predator tomorrow. I'll come out of Predator Badlands saying Predator Badlands is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. It doesn't mean it's got to be a Best Picture, It's just like, oh, that was fun. Watch the aliens do their thing. And that's the role of some of these movies. And I think Yorgos is really good as a filmmaker who makes a movie that makes you think. And like, I do like that. I like a movie that like I just kind of sit with and think about and ponder and wonder about and want to go see again because of that curiosity.
He's like a good Tim Burton.
Well, now, why would you do this? We have a guest.
Not too much on Tim Burton, like I love a whimsical film, like I want to see something dark and moody and, So I'm like, and Tim will provide a dark and moody something.
I like a Sweeney Todd.
Deepak's just trying to feel you out now. If you're going to be more with us more often, KB, he wants to know whose side of which battleground lines you're on. He's just trying to get all of them.
Burton, I mean, not every director makes a film that every human being's going to love, but Tim has some hits in there.
Yeah, and look, he's due. I have been really defending him lately because I think he's getting back to his roots in Wednesday. Like, I like him on a small budget, just kind of doing stripes and creepy vibes. I'm here for that.
That's it.
But Deepak, we don't need to be talking about Tim Burton when you still haven't done. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about Aidan Delbus, the neurodivergent actor who was in this movie, who was cast like in high school. He's a 17-year-old. He's incredible.
Yeah,
he's so good at it.
He's unbelievably good. You mentioned earlier, KB, the emotional manipulation angle that's played in part of this movie, and of course that goes between the Jesse Plemons character and this character. The performance is completely, it's like transparent. It doesn't feel like you're watching an actor acting. It's the closest thing I've seen since maybe like Barkhead Abdi and Captain Phillips. I'm the captain now. Someone who, they come out of nowhere and there's no artifice at all. I don't know, again, like what we were saying, if it's something that elevates to the level of an Academy Award nomination. But as far as not only the quality of the performance, but the quality it has of selling you even more on the world that the movie is building for you. Because so much of it is dependent on the bond between those two characters. And then, of course, the manipulatability and him endearing himself to us as an audience because of what he ultimately does at his sort of climactic moment. I thought the performance was just outstanding.
Yeah, I will say I think it's because of Aidan's performance as Don and his interaction with Teddy. It's almost as if that's why you hate Teddy, right? Like it's when you see how he manipulates Don, you're like, well, there's no way this guy can be right about anything because he is awful, like he is terrible. He's manipulating his cousin to do everything he wants to do. That entire piece about, them self-castrating, essentially, and him doing it, to his cousin when his cousin's like, well, I want to be in a relationship. Like, I would love to be with someone. Him completely dismissing his feelings, and using well, they killed our whole family, so we have to kind of over his head over and over again. And even when Don has like, a level of agency in the film just with Michelle, because to be fair, Michelle also emotionally manipulates Don. Like, they both are, terrible people when it comes to Don. And, there is a point where Don is like, I believe Don understands that he's being manipulated by both of them, but he still doesn't think it's right. Like, he's like, Betty, I hear what you're saying, but you're wrong. Like, we should not be doing this to this person. Like, it doesn't matter. He still has a layer of empathy that both of them, that Teddy and Michelle both lack, actually, I think, throughout the film, is what Don continues to bring. So I think he's an exceptional actor, and I would be on board with the nomination for him, for sure. I mean, like, there are some really great, in my opinion, from what I've seen thus far, some really great supporting actor performances happening. And I know, Riley, you saw Frankenstein. I honestly think Jacob should get one. I think that like he's exceptional in it.
He's incredible in that role.
So I mean, I think that role, is almost kind of made for Jacob. Even his height, like even the physicality of his height being used, just throughout that film, which is stunning, by the way. It's actually the most beautiful film I've seen this year, just visually. It's actually crazy. The sunset's so gorgeous. I was like, Guillermo, take me. Like, where's the sunset? It's so beautiful. Like, I need to live here. It's stunning. It's actually beautiful. So
it's the movie Guillermo's entire career has been leading to, and I think there are so many components to it. We were joking, KB, my brother Jack and I, who's on the show with us. He and I were very into the X Maxine Pearl trilogy of movies, and so we were very excited to see Mia Goth and Guillermo just feel like they're so made for each other. And you're absolutely right, Elordi just as this massive hulking figure, but also his ability to deliver dialogue. You know, he goes deep back from in the first half of the movie, literally just having one single word in every line of his dialogue is just the one word. And then the second half of the movie, you know, he's pontificating on this beautiful dialogue that Guillermo has written for him. And it sounds positively Miltonian. He's just like kicking down the door and making these incredibly eloquent demands of people. It's all very good. I read that Aiden, his audition for this movie at his high school talent show. I don't know if you saw this, Deepak. He did Vincent Price's monologue from Thriller, and somebody had filmed it on their phone, and that was like his tape that he submitted for this movie. And they said they cast him right off it. They were like, he's absolutely everything we need. And I agree with you guys that I think he really gives this emotional core to this, you know, kind of a heart of the movie. You know, I wanted to talk about him, and I wanted to talk about Silverstone, so I'll kind of do both those things now. I think it is so sad that his character kills himself. You know, I mean, made even more so by the circumstances of it, but just the fact that, you know, he clearly feels there's no way out for him. You know, and I think that I was surprised by how much empathy Yorgos Lanthimos had in this movie for, I feel like, a group of guys who, at least I feel I am very quick to sort of write off in a lot of ways. You know, there have been a lot of good media this year. What was that Netflix show about the kid? Adolescence.
Yes.
Another one that I thought sort of spent a lot of time thinking about these issues that I sort of want to just push out of my mind because I find them to be a little too upsetting sometimes. But I think Yorgos had a lot of empathy, especially for Alden Delbus's character. Like, the you know, on one side, he had sort of this malicious, fascistic, militant force pushing him down a route of callousness and closing himself off to the world and closing himself off to truth that he just couldn't get on board with, right? But he talks about, after they do the chemical castration, he talks about these side effects he's having. He doesn't feel good. He feels crazy. He feels like he's not in touch with himself. And Teddy just tells him, you put that away. We don't need to talk about that. That's fine. Don't worry about that. Right? And then on the other side, you know, the only hope he has to get out is Emma Stone's character, who is manipulating him in the exact same way. And I really thought the empathy that was on display for this guy, and guys like this who end up in these situations of being, you know, utter scumbags, you know, they do sort of fall into it over time. It's not like you just wake up one day and go, what if I was the worst person on earth? Right. And sort of watching that journey I thought it was really compelling, and it was shown responsibly, I thought. On the Silverstone side of it, I just wanted to call it out because I have an unusual relationship with the movie Batman and Robin, and I would shoot myself into the sun for Alicia Silverstone if it required it. And I was just so glad to see her back in a movie again. I hope she just keeps on acting. Let's do this. If this is the Silverstone Renaissance, I'm here for it. I heard some people say they would have cut those scenes out, and I don't know that I agree with that. I thought that
she is doing the Clueless reboot. That is happening right now. Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, this is very good to know. I have to go Google Clueless reboot immediately.
That is happening. So for you, but I don't know. I'd like to say that I feel like her scenes added value, and maybe on a second watch they will add a little bit more. I feel like they add to the intentional chaos in which I'm trying to redirect where you think that this is headed. You know, in some ways, I think that very first scene where we see her and the Swartz, and her saying, you know, we can't let them do this to us, and we have to. I think that is intentional in the sense that, like, you want to, because, you know, again, Michelle's character, her entire story is that, oh, you're mentally ill. And so I think putting that scene in there is basically like, you know, his way of being like, Teddy has a mental illness that is hereditary, passed down from his mom. Like, this is what it looks like. This is how it manifests. And so you're like, okay. So I think I would have to watch it again because she's not in very many scenes. I think it's maybe 3 total.
The black and white sequences.
Right. Yeah. And it's those 3 dreams that sort of get increasingly chaotic, to use your language, KB, and then the hospital scene is the only other, and I don't even think she gets a full shot in that. I think
there's that,
weird close up.
Yeah, and her eyes are closed the entire time, and I mean, it's just to show again how, you know, there's no way that Michelle can be an alien because look how completely unhinged he is. I
Right.
think is really the direction that it's going in. So,
Right.
but that second dream where she's like levitating,
Where she flies.
you
Yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like kind of in the sky with Michelle and her team standing there apologizing, is interesting. I almost kind of, I mean, I get that it is supposed to be a dream sequence, but I wonder if it's not.
Oh,
Well,
sure.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean, it's obviously not objectively what happened in those moments because she wasn't floating. But
Right.
my interpretation of it was that it's basically his memory of it. He's clinging to his mother as best he can, knowing that she's basically already gone. And we don't know if that's really what Michelle said to him in those moments. We don't know if that's really how he behaved in those moments.
Right.
That is just, we're getting enough information to know that she was involved with some sort of trial, and he's upset that the trial basically killed her.
And Michelle, in that moment, what we do know is that when she makes mention of paying his family, she does confirm it later. So at least that part is true. Like
Mhm.
in the dream where she's like, we'll cover everything, no cost to you. We're like, okay, well, we know that she did have a conversation with him. And she did agree to help pay for anything based on what happened with this drug that her company created.
One of the choices I thought was so interesting was to make it clear that they had met before, but that she had no memory of him at all. And that she doesn't even play that angle later. Like when it comes up that she has pieced it together and figured out what happened. It's not like she goes, "Oh, I remember when you came to the thing," or she still. I think again, a weaker movie may have given her that opportunity to sort of have that charisma play of like, "Oh no, I do know you, I do recognize you." It doesn't even occur to her, right? As you said, KB, she makes the argument that they clearly should have given him more, or that they were ungenerous in their offer, but there's no like human to human connection. And I think that those dream sequences do serve to underscore that, to make it just more clear the divide between that this guy feels between him and the rest of the world, and how isolated and alone he feels, and how much of a mission he feels like he's on too, which again I just think builds empathy for a character that could have been like Buffalo Bill if played the wrong way, right?
But you're right. But I think that also it's to play the fact that like she is an alien, so she does
Yes.
she does lack empathy, right?
Yes.
Like so she's
Yes.
not thinking. I mean, there is going to be a coldness to her because she cannot relate. Like
Right.
she is a superior being, so she's like, why do I care?
Right. Oh, and I just, and we haven't honed in on this part of it. And I know we're wrapping down, so I'll just call our attention to the very, very end of the film too, which is that she pops that bubble and then everybody dies, which I thought
And she
was
seems conflicted about it. Doesn't
She
seem to
does.
want to do it, but kind of takes it as this is something we don't have a choice in.
win some, you lose some, strikes
Yeah.
and gutters, man.
Exactly.
So here's the thing that I actually thought about the ending.
And it's a flat
I
Earth, by the
thought
way.
I thought that internal conflict only came from her interactions with Don and Teddy.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Mhm.
I think that like she starts to have almost a little bit of a conscience because of that interaction with them. Had she not been kidnapped and tortured and forced to kind of understand his perspective because he kept quite literally beating it onto her. I don't think that she would have had any remorse doing it, right? Because when you're looking at and I'm going to call them the Council of Aliens, because that's kind of what it gave. But when you're looking at the council members, they're all like, just do it, girl. Like, we don't have time. And meanwhile, she's like, well,
Yeah.
okay, guys, but this does mean that everyone will die. And they were like, we don't care. like, please, like, just get it over with. And she's like, but everyone will die. And they're like, we get it. Go ahead. Like,
That's what we want.
Like, yeah, please move forward. So I think, and really, I'm going to argue that it's really only her interaction with Don, I think, that may have shifted. I mean, probably a little bit of Teddy, but more of Don because he was just, I don't know, more humane, like like he did kind of take up for her in some ways. He did just, maybe it was just a little bit of that kind of rubbed off on her, and she's like, oh gosh. I mean, but ultimately, she does what she is called to do, I guess I'm going to put that in quotes, like kind of based on, kind of what they feel like they're called to do on this journey based on that speech that she gives the other council members. So
Yeah.
she does what she thinks she has to do, but I do think it's this interaction that does give her kind of a slight cause for pause before.
And she does manipulate Don to an extent, but I don't think she meant for Don to
be a
take
casualty.
his own life.
No.
Yeah.
I never thought that she intended for that to happen. She wanted him to let her go.
But
Right.
Yeah.
And she knew that Don would, because of his empathy and his humanity, that if she had any chance of being let go, it was only him. There was no, kind of other person or scenario in which she would have gotten out. It was just Don.
I don't know what to make of it, but I do sort of think that it is significant that Dawn says, I know you're not an alien, but if you were an alien, would you take me with you? And then, and her saying that's not reality, which of course then the end of the movie reveals it is reality, right? But her saying that's not reality is what sort of immediately precedes, if not causes, it's hard to say causes, but immediately precedes Dawn's suicide. And I sort of had to think that interaction was still weighing on her when she did go into alien mode and retreat into space and sort of leave humanity behind. That idea that Dawn was like, oh, if you were an alien, you could take me and my life could be, that could be the way my life improves. Sort of that being the only hope. And then kind of that's the message at the end, right? Bugonia, this idea, I guess we're all learning Greek now, that bees spontaneously
Erupt.
Are created out of dead human bodies, right? That kind of like, there is a way, again, it's messy at the end. I suddenly get all this stuff just stuck onto it. And I think I need to see it more times to sort through it, but there's a lot of ideas there.
My closing thought on the end of the movie is there any chance that she suffered a massive concussion when Jesse Plemons' head hit her in the head?
He blows himself
out?
up with his bomb, and she now thinks she's an alien. Maybe. Sure, why not?
I mean, she did
or it's
fly
just
across the room. She was thrown quite hard and then hit the glass window. Was it the glass of her office? I'm trying to figure it out.
Frosted glass.
So I mean, it is quite possible. I just do feel like, in that scene that you're referencing, Riley, between the two of them, where he's like, "You'll take me with you." I almost wish she would have revealed herself to him and then just simply told him, we cannot take humans. Like, just like, I know this is what you think can happen or is possible, but it's not. Like, we cannot take humans. No humans will be going with us, unfortunately, but I wish you well.
But I think that's where Lanthimos's filmmaking becomes more disdainful of like all living things and less like humans or conservative uptight dudes that live in their mom's basement or right? Like just living things in general are selfish and will not take risks to benefit others is sort of, I think, a thing he comes back to so often. And, I'm also a sad, bitter man, so I like his movies and I'll continue to watch them.
Well, that is definitely the theme of this movie for sure. Like living beings will do whatever they want to do for themselves. So every single human in this film, well, and alien, every single person, thing in this film,
creature,
definitely proves that true.
Yeah. Well, KB, thanks so much for coming to talk to us about this bleak ass movie. We hope you'll come back for a more fun one soon.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome. I mean, like, hey, you would think that by the way we just ended this, that we all hated it. I mean, no, but we did not. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a silver lining there.
100%. Cool. Well, and we will, we'll have some more of your stuff all over the website. So people can head over to nihf.com. We'll have some of your written reviews up there for people to check out. I think we're going to do a spot on the news show on Weekly. We'll get you in to talk about Catherine the Great as that gets written. No, Catherine the Great's the TV show.
Eleanor the Great.
I like. Eleanor the Great is the movie that we're all anticipating. But yeah, it's going to be great. We'll have more stuff from you soon. We're so excited to have you joining us. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you guys for having me.
Deepak, should we take it out?
Sure.
I can do the credits. I know them. This has been Nerd Here Weekly. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Wiki Rascals for our logo and artwork. Thank you to Purple Planet for our theme music. Thank you to Bruno Meneses for editing and producing this show. And thank you to you for being here with us. We will see you next week. Don't forget to tune in next week to hear.